Some flavors are impossible to forget. They aren't flashy. They don't appear on restaurant menus or cooking shows. Yet, decades later, they linger in memory like a photograph you can still smell. Liver and potatoes is one of those flavors. For many Americans growing up in mid-century kitchens, this simple, humble meal was more than food. It was a constant, a marker of daily life. Liver and potatoes wasn't meant to impress. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't photographed, plated, or styled. It was meant to nourish, to fill a plate after long hours of labor, to satisfy a family with as little waste as possible. And in that simplicity lies its charm. Imagine a small kitchen in the middle of a busy city or a quiet rural town. The sunlight filters through thin curtains, dust motes drifting lazily. A mother or father stands at the stove, pans sizzling, preparing dinner while children play nearby or set the table. On one pan, slices of liver sear in butter until the edges are lightly browned. On another, potatoes slowly simmer, absorbing the aroma from the butter and fat that is rendered off the liver. By the time the meal is ready, the house smells warm, filling, almost like comfort itself has settled on the wooden floors and linoleum counters. During the first half of the 20th century, liver and potatoes was commonplace in working-class households. It was affordable, available, and remarkably versatile. Chicken liver, beef liver, or pork liver, whatever the butcher or market had that week, would find its way into the pan. The potatoes, boiled, mashed, or sliced and pan-fried, provided the starch that made the meal hearty enough to feed an entire family. Some families prepared the liver with onions, sliced thinly, fried until sweet and translucent. Others preferred simple butter and salt, letting the natural flavor of the liver shine. Some mashed the potatoes with a touch of cream, others left them chunky, rustic, and unadorned. Every household had its own version, and every version felt like the right one for that kitchen. There was no recipe book. There was only memory, handed down from one generation to the next. The process itself created anticipation. The sound of the pan sizzling, the smell of onions softening in butter, the gentle bubbling of potatoes in a separate pot, these sensory cues were as much part of the meal as the food itself. For children growing up in these homes, the preparation of liver and potatoes was a ritual as familiar as waking to sunlight in the morning. It wasn't just dinner, it was routine, comfort, and security rolled into one plate. And yet, despite its ubiquity, the meal required careful attention. Liver could quickly become tough if overcooked. The potatoes needed to be soft, but not waterlogged. Timing mattered. The liver needed enough heat to brown and release its richness, but the interior had to remain tender. Butter, salt, and sometimes a sprinkle of black pepper were enough to elevate it from basic sustenance to something warm, flavorful, and satisfying. In households where children helped, the rhythm of cooking became a shared memory. A child might peel potatoes while the liver sizzled, learning the smell and timing of each ingredient. A parent might lift the lid from the pan just enough to test the aroma and texture, ensuring that the potatoes would be ready the moment the liver finished. These small acts created a network of memories around the meal that went far beyond taste. As decades passed, liver and potatoes began to fade from everyday American kitchens. Fast food expanded, convenience meals arrived. Younger generations moved to urban apartments or new suburban homes where dietary habits shifted toward lighter, quicker, and more modern foods. Liver, with its distinctive flavor and texture, became less common. Potato dishes were still eaten, but the combination, cooked slowly over low heat in butter with liver, became something older generations quietly remembered rather than something younger cooks prepared daily. Yet, the dish did not disappear entirely. In some homes, especially those of seniors living alone today, liver and potatoes remain a staple. For many elderly Americans, cooking this meal is practical. One pan, simple ingredients, minimal cleanup, and a meal that stretches to satisfy hunger. But it is also emotional. It brings back memories of family dinners, childhood kitchens, and the sensory textures of life that modern meals rarely replicate. The act of cooking and eating it evokes a continuity that connects decades, linking present to past. Even today, someone might take a small frying pan, melt butter, slice liver carefully, and let the edges brown just enough to release flavor. On a separate pot, potatoes are prepared slowly, absorbing any remaining fat, butter, or seasoning. Perhaps onions are added, perhaps a hint of pepper, perhaps nothing more than salt. The result is familiar, rustic, deeply satisfying, and timeless. It is a reminder that some meals do not need to be complicated to endure, and that endurance is part of what makes liver and potatoes unique among forgotten foods. While fast food and convenience meals have replaced many staples, liver and potatoes carry with them the weight of history, not the weight of fancy cooking, but the weight of family, routine, and sustenance. It is a food that bridges generations, from children learning to stir pots beside parents to seniors cooking alone, carefully preserving flavors that shape their upbringing. I tried recreating this old-style liver and potatoes meal as closely as possible to the way many families once prepared it. And while the ingredients are simple, the technique, timing, and love poured into the pan are what truly make it memorable. If this meal reminds you of something from your own childhood, or if your family prepared a similar version, please share it in the comments. I'd love to hear how families across different regions remembered and cooked this dish. And if you enjoy exploring forgotten comfort foods from the past, don't forget to subscribe for more videos showcasing old recipes that quietly shaped everyday life.